Hello students, today we are going to look at the relevance of Tom Jones to third world countries and to the third world context. To begin with, we have to first understand what is the third world. After the Cold War, the United States, Canada, Japan, South Korea, Western European nations and their allies represented the first world, while the Soviet Union, China, Cuba and their allies represented the second world. The term third world was used to define countries that remained non-aligned with either the National Atlantic Treaty Organization or the Communist bloc, which was under the hegemony of the Soviet Union during the Cold War. Because many third world countries were economically poor and non-industrialized, it became a stereotype to refer to these poor countries as third world countries. Yet the third world term is also often taken to include newly industrialized countries like Brazil, China, and even India. So India is considered a third world country. It is also a developing nation today. India has a high poverty rate, corruption, it has an outdated caste system and other significant issues like population, violence on women, mortality that have stunted its development. Now let us discuss the relevance of this novel to third world countries in our times. The History of Tom Jones, a Foundling was written by Henry Fielding, published in the year 1749. So the English context here becomes important. During this era, as we know, a lot of changes were taking place in society, which we will look at. First, let us discuss the position of Tom as a bastard. What is Tom's fault that he is born as a bastard? The same problem bastards face even in today's society. In fact, Tom is such a person who has all the good qualities. He is good to Black George. He sees to the fact that he is fed. He claims that he is the father when Molly Seagrim becomes pregnant out of wedlock. So conventionally speaking, Tom has all the good qualities of a human being. But his only problem is that he is a bastard and therefore he does not gain that kind of respect in society that he deserves. Bastards in today's societies are treated the same way. Next, coming to English society, the novel portrays England as having bad roads, poor laws, weakening religion and class difference in that era. Same goes with today's modern societies. We have poor roads in most third world countries where government fundings do not go to set up good infrastructure and build safe roads. Laws, even though mentioned in clear, bold letters in the Constitution, are hardly followed. Religious conflict is, of course, at the heart of every society and it pertains even today. And class difference is glaring in third world countries. In third world countries, we see a very tiny percentage of people who are very rich and the majority who are poor. The same thing is true for a third world country like India, where massive populations are below the poverty line. The novel also shows us the difference of the countryside and the city of London. In the countryside, we see Squire Weston, who even though in power is slowly losing it. He has eroded all his moral values. He thinks it is okay to sleep with Molly Seagrim because she is already corrupted and has sinned. We see the people in the city of London, very cunning, very ruthless, all ready to exploit the innocent, the poor, and the naive. The same feature is evident in Indian society and third world nations. There exists a difference between the village and the towns. The village population are innocent people who suffer, and the people who are in the towns and in the cities, they are way ahead in terms of advancement and technology. These urban pockets flourish at the cost of the people who are in the rural side. We know agriculture and farmers are the backbone of the Indian nation, but their condition is terrible and tragic. The urban pockets are flourishing because of the IT sector in India today. The weakening of the landed gentry is noticed in the novel, and same goes for third world countries where the traditional zamindari system, where the traditional aristocratic systems, where the traditional royal families are slowly losing their power and hold. It is all about the strengthening of the middle class today. The doctors, the teachers, the engineers, and the lawyers, now they have become the very strength of the society. They are the capital on which third world countries flourish and progress. Then we look at the critical view of orthodoxy which Henry Fielding holds. Same goes for Indian context. Indian people have slowly come to realize that social orthodoxy, religious orthodoxy need to be viewed with skepticism. Traditionalism is not always the path to progress. Orthodox views have now become backdated. Indian people no longer believe in superstitions. They are trying to encourage more scientific thought and reasoning in their lives. Meaninglessness of casual sex is also very evident in Tom Jones. Tom Jones's several escapades, rather sexual escapades with several women, lead him slowly away from his true love Sophia. He finally ends in jail and is almost at the point where he loses Sophia. But at the end, after his realization, he understands his mistakes and he is accepted by his beloved Sophia. Finally, the very important message in the novel is that marriage should be based on love. Sophia, coming from a well-established family, would not have married a bastard like Tom Jones. But Sophia truly loved Tom, and Tom also truly loved Sophia. This union of Sophia and Tom in the novel shows that no matter what obstacles arise, whether it is of social, economic, or cultural in case of India, true love is and should remain the basis of marriage. One point needs to be discussed here, and that is of the portrayal of Mr. Allworthy. Even though Mr. Allworthy belongs to the countryside, he is shown to be a far better person than Squire Weston. Mr. Allworthy doesn't effectively control his own immediate environment. His servants and the ordinary neighbors treat him well. Fielding successfully combines in Mr. Allworthy's presentation the traditionalism of a squire and rational, open-minded, exploratory view of a progressive bourgeois. This is also something which is the call of the hour in India. Indians should hold a balanced view of both their past and present. They should be proud of their past traditional heritage, but also try to cultivate in their lives modernism and progressive ideas. Through the character portrayal of Sophia, who exercises her own choice of marriage when it comes to her marrying Tom Jones, we can call this an example of a woman's empowerment. In Indian society, fortunately, we can also see such women coming up who will exercise their own choice in marriage and in love. The themes of Tom Jones are varied and layered and rather complex. The readers find them thought provoking. Let us look at them and then we can come to the conclusion that Tom Jones is not a simplistic novel. Rather, it is a novel which has layered meanings and can be quite influential and inspirational to modern readers. Innocence to experience. The journey from innocence to experience is the most important theme in the novel. Tom Jones initially is innocent, careless, and he lacks wisdom. Even if though he is a good person with the best of intentions, it is always necessary to also understand people and their views. Tom's honesty is a great virtue, but at times he needs to learn that sometimes it is necessary to withhold information to protect oneself. Tom is unaware of other people's powers to do him harm. Tom lacks prudence. While he loves Sophia and knows that she is different from the other woman that he usually hangs out with, he is slave to his physical desires. Tom's generous heart and good nature gets him into trouble with women because he cannot say no to women. After Tom leaves home, he is more and more victimized by his own faults and refusal to change, especially when he is in the big city of London. In jail, his first instinct is to blame his fate. But then later, he tries to develop discretion, self-control. And he turns down Mrs. Hunt, Mrs. Waters, and Mrs. Fitzpatrick. By learning from his experience, Tom is finally able to gain some degree of wisdom. This message of experiencing life and to undergo transformation from innocence to experience is rather an important theme. Dogma versus virtue. While laws and religious rules may be necessary and good, they do not guarantee a person will act with true virtue. The example is that of Reverend Thwackum in the novel, who claims to have great virtues of Christianity, but he is partial towards Bilphil, who appears to be good and virtuous, and punishes Tom Jones cruelly because, according to Reverend Thwackum, Tom Jones lacks virtue. But Tom, we know, is a boy who has the true virtue when he helps Black George and his family. Coming to Mr. Allworthy's portrayal, Fielding has shown him to be a person who holds true Christian virtue. He gives his property to his adopted son Tom Jones. Thwackum, on the other hand, just proves himself to be a hypocrite without real goodness. He is a foil to Mr. Allworthy. Appearance versus reality. Not everything is as what it seems. Mr. Allworthy begins to hate Tom Jones and disowns him because he falls prey to whatever Bilphil tells him. He cannot differentiate between appearance and reality. Bridget and Mrs. Wickens complain that Mr. Allworthy is taking in a bastard child, while Bridget is herself the mother of the child, and she successfully conceals this fact until the day she dies. Thwackum proves himself to be a Christian and believes that he is a reverend who has all Christian values, but we know that he is very partial towards Bilfil and tortures Tom Jones. Bilfil pretends to be a dutiful and obedient nephew, yet he is all the time plotting for Tom Jones's downfall. Squire Weston pretends to be a Platonic philosopher and he acts as if he is very intellectual, but he is a man of very, very ordinary morals. And he thinks it is okay to have illicit sex with Molly Seagrim because she is already a corrupted woman. Therefore, we see in this novel that hypocrisy is present in most characters who use it as a tool to mask reality. The next theme of love and desire, which is so complex in its nature and so important to understand when we come to appreciate this novel. Sexual desire is very natural, but when it is divorced from love, sex reduces people to the level of animals, just satisfying their instinctual appetites. Love, on the other hand, is a noble emotion. For an 18th century person in England, sex outside marriage was immoral and exemplified a lack of commitment. Henry Fielding subscribes to these views to some degree. He has an easygoing attitude towards sex outside of marriage and even acknowledges that women might have as strong a sexual desire as men, as shown by the example of Mrs. Fitzpatrick. Nonetheless, he demonstrates that illicit sex is a destructive force and can lead to social chaos. Tom Jones's sexual adventures with various women get him into more and more serious troubles until he winds up in jail and in danger of losing his beloved Sophia. At the end, after realizing his mistakes, he finally gains self-awareness and also claims back the trust and love of Sophia. So, after going through these themes, we very well can come to the conclusion that Tom Jones is not a very simple novel to be casually read. Rather, it is a novel which should be studied extensively and in depth because the themes that it projects are of great value to human life and human society.